everybody. Cheryl coming at you. We did say we were going to do more videos on this spring break, and as it will not stop raining, I thought that I would come in, and I just heard some news that was really shocking to me. And it's kind of the end of an era. And I just really feel like talking about this particular thing because it meant so much to me, and the world's changing so fast. And I want to just sort of mention it for posterity, maybe. I just found out that the Hudson Bay company is going to close. They are the last major department store in existence. They have been in existence for hundreds of years, actually. They literally, if you remember your BC history, before they changed all of it, the Hudson's Bay Company was here. They helped found Canada. They were fur traders, right? And of course, back in the day, fur trading was a big deal because, of course, the UK owned Canada. We were part of the Commonwealth. I mean, we still are, but it's different. It's more complex now. Of course, we own ourselves. And we are still part of England, but not in the same actual way. We're not really we're not a colony anymore, but we are part of the Commonwealth. But then we choose to be a part of the Commonwealth. If we did not want to do that, that's probably, okay. But thank God we do still choose, because it was a wonderful part of my childhood, and hopefully will be again as we come into this new era, right? Hopefully of goodness. So that hurt my feelings a lot, just because I'm sad about is what I mean, is the great stores were so amazing for me. This little girl who didn't have very much. My nanny, my grandmother, we called her nanny. It's a British thing. And my mom and I and my sister would always go there because it was free and we were po. So it was free to walk around, and it was quite an event back in the day. And they had wonderful things like $1.49 Day. Woodward's, who remembers that? My mom spent so much time there because she was so po, but you could buy things, like really good things, for like $1.49, like 50 years ago. $1.49 Day, Tuesday, $1.49 Day, Woodward's. And they would put it on TV, and they would do that. So, my God, she bought most of our presents there. She bought most of our toys there, the toys that she did buy, because she wasn't the best mom. But my nanny was. My nanny was a good grandmother. And so when I think about that, I think about my life. I think about my childhood. I think about the many wonderful times that we spent there, and I just want to acknowledge that, now. So the Bay apparently will be closing. They're starting to do the liquidations apparently today, which is March 24th, 2025. So seriously, I think by June everything will be closed. We had 16 stores in British Columbia. I certainly haven't been to all of them, but I've been to plenty of them. I believe there was one in Abbotsford. I know there was, because we used to live in Mission. And there's quite a few in Vancouver. Those are the super fancy ones in Vancouver. That's the ones we used to go to when we lived in Vancouver, like 50 years ago, in the 70s and the 60s. So that was, they were some amazing stores down on Hastings in Vancouver before it became inner city decay. I mean, that was the shopping district. When I was really little, like 5 years old or something, like 50 years ago, that was the place to go. I mean, Woodward's was the most amazing store. All you have to do is like sort of watch old shows like that have like department stores in them. That's what they looked like. They had everything. They sold everything. Their service was unparalleled. They used to have Santa, and it would be this whole big deal. And then they'd have the Easter Bunny, and then they'd have these amazing different things. And there was so much you could buy, you could do. There were services. You could get your hair cut there. You could buy anything you could possibly want. They had amazing toy stores or toy fairs or whatever. If you remember Elf was set in a big department store. It was very much like that. I mean, we used to go to the big department store, the Bay in Vancouver. That was mammoth. That was huge. I mean, I love the Bay, and it still existed. It existed for a long time, and even back when we had our Olympics, that was a really big deal. The Bay did a lot of Olympic stuff, and so many people came from all over the world to the Bay, to the Hudson's Bay. I remember because we used to go too. So that was something. So I thought I would just talk about the amazing things that are. It's like the end of an era. I don't think they'll ever make stores like that again. That makes me so sad. But I understand that things have to change, because if they don't change, then it's not going to be good. You have to keep up. You have to keep up. I mean, I must admit, I'm a big Amazon shopper. And I like being a big Amazon shopper, especially since I've had some challenges with my health and well-being. And I can't go out the way I used to. I don't have a car the way I used to have a car. I'm very grateful. I'm even starting to get my groceries delivered because it's been such a challenge. And I'm very grateful that the grocery people deliver. So, and I think the pandemic affected a lot of people too, because we didn't have grocery delivery really. Like, why would you do that? You just go get your groceries. But then it became a necessity for some people. So I'm glad they still have it, even though I know it was hard for many people during the pandemic. It benefited me. I got jobs from it, and I'm grateful the fact that it benefited me in a lot of ways, but I do appreciate that it didn't benefit very many people otherwise. And it was very, very hard. And I think that was one of the things that put probably a nail in the coffin of the big stores, because they were an event. I know they had online, because I did buy from the Bay online. I'm a very big fan of Ralph Lauren, in case you didn't know. My students know, other people know. And so they actually, they were great. They had a great online thing. I like their online. I borrowed I bought stuff from their online too, as well. But now Ralph Lauren has their own stores, so you can either go. I haven't ever been able to get to a Ralph Lauren store, but they also have an online, which is very well run and very well put together. You guys have seen in my other videos some of my Ralph Lauren stuff, right? And my beautiful red hat that I got from Ralph Lauren. So that was cool, and I still love to this day. So yeah, but I thought I would talk about the amazing stores they were. When you were really little, it was an outing, right? And I didn't get to do much, so it was fun to go to the Sears, for example. It was such a great store. I mean, you just bought everything there. You trusted the Sears with your life. I still do. I believe the Sears closed in 2017, 2018. That was heartbreaking, because I just loved the Sears. All the Sears were just so amazing. The downtown Sears, the Surrey Place had a Sears when we lived in Surrey. They don't call it Surrey Place anymore, but I always do, because that's where my nanny was. They had that. It was such a great place, such a great mall, early 70s, middle 70s. Then I think they call it Central City now, which I think is still there, but my God, it's not not the place it was once. So that's heartbreaking. But it still does exist, sort of cobbled together stores that, you wouldn't go there to see. There's not that much there. And it's probably maybe going to even close now, because I think they had the Bay there, and it was a good Bay. And I think they're going to close it down. It had all the stores too. So I think the Sears closed, and we used to go to the Langley Sears a lot, and that was such a great store. My God, they had so many fun things, and they'd have fun events sometimes, and they would have coffee, and you could come early. remember? And they would give coffee and they would give little snacks, and you could walk around the store at like 7 o'clock in the morning. And for me, who was not doing well, it was really, really fun. It was something to do for me. And I think everybody knows about the stuff that happened to me and my abuse history and stuff. So that's, again, intertwined in this story because I wasn't allowed to do very much. But because my mom wanted to go, I was allowed to do that. So it means maybe more than it would have meant for people who weren't like captive from their family or with their family or whatever. So that meant a lot to me. And it was just fun, and it was also comforting. And it was something to do when you were sad, which was all the time almost. And it was a very different place in the 80s, obviously, the 70s and 80s and 90s than it is now, because it was just better run and everything was better. And Canada was better. So, if you know, you know. So that was a big, beautiful thing, right? And so that's something that meant something to me. And they had so many beautiful things. I loved the Sears Country Collection. I loved buying things from there. And my God, they had a watch repair place, and you'd get your watch repaired. I mean, who repairs watches now? But they did, and they had a shoemaker guy that would like fix stuff. And literally, we would go and get that. They didn't just fix shoemaker stuff. They fixed other stuff. They did other things. They fixed bags or purses or other stuff. They had a hairdressing place, so we would often go get our hair cut there. Like, they had everything. And they had a beautiful big, they had a big restaurant. So we ate at the restaurant all the time. They had a big restaurant. It was a good restaurant. We loved it. So we go there too. So that was Sears. And Sears closed, and the Bay is the last one. Again, I thought the Bay was going to make it, but apparently, with all the stuff happening, they can't. Like, people aren't shopping in the stores as much anymore. People are shopping online more. People don't go out as much as they used to go out because of the pandemic changed all that. And the looming tariff war apparently frightened them too. What are you going to do? So it's terrible for that. So, but the Bay was good. The Bay was kind of the poor man's Woodwards, though. If like I never loved the Bay as much as I loved the other stores, but it was still okay. I still liked it. I still went there, and it was still nice to go to a department store. And they had everything everybody else had. They had, of course, the shoemaker person. We used to go to the hearing aid guy. There was a hearing aid guy. I think he might have been in Sears. I'm not sure if he was in the Bay, but they all kind of had similar kind of things, and you could buy so many different things there. And the Langley Bay is the one I remember the best. And they had the Ralph Lauren line, and they had a lot of upper lines that people actually enjoyed. It was quite a fancy store for a really long time. And they had, huge, huge areas where they would sell makeup and cosmetics and skincare. Like, it was huge. And then different kinds of clothes, upper level. I got this is from Olsen, which is from the Bay. And they had a big Olsen department, which is kind of higher end, but I just loved it. And so I bought this from the Bay, and I'm wearing it. I just love this neckline. What do you think? I love that and the way the neck is. So, so that's something that I did too. And they just had such great stuff, and then there was Eaton's, and Eaton's closed in 1999, I think. Eaton's was not well run, though, to be honest. Eaton's was not well run. They were crazy famous again from, really the early 20th century. They were very famous. They did have a male thing back when there weren't that many stores in the early, like the 1920s or whatever, right? And the absolute famous Canadian story, the hockey sweater, is all about Eaton's. It's not very Western though, and I live in BC, but still, between the Montreal Canadiens and the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it was this whole big story about Quebec, and I think it was Quebec. So it's a very Eastern Canada story, and the Bay was kind of all over. Eaton's is much more of a big city Eastern kind of store, although they had many, many in British Columbia. And I didn't love Eaton's. I didn't hate Eaton's. It had some good things. My mom loved Eaton's, so we would go there occasionally, and we would buy things there. Sure, we would buy things there too, as well. They never seemed to have as many stores in BC as they did in other places, but yeah, definitely we would go to Eaton's, especially in Guildford Mall, which obviously is still there, but changed very, very much. In Surrey, they had a very big Eaton's store. And then I think Sears maybe bought Eaton's, and so there was a lot of Sears stores, so that became a Sears store. One of my absolute favorite stores. But the store of my childhood and the store of my memory, and the store that I am still very heartbroken about. And I don't think it was every place in Canada, although maybe it was called Woodward's. And it was just the greatest store you'd ever been in your life. My nanny, she just loved it. She loved that store. And so I remember it when I was really little and going to the one in Vancouver. And God, they had everything. They had something called the Woodward's Food Floor, which was life-changingly beautiful. It was amazing. And they treated everybody well. Really, they did. And everybody had uniforms, like you see on the TV, like you see in some movies. Everyone had uniforms on, and everyone was spick and span, and everything was appropriate, and people knew how to behave, and it was such a different life. It was such a different life, especially when you're a little girl and you're seeing all this sort of amazing, majestic stuff. And so they had a really beautiful food store. It was kind of British. They had a British vibe, too. Like maybe the British stores used to be, because of course it was, I think, founded at least a little bit on that, because of course Canada is British, or at least it was, and hopefully we can get it back a little bit more. And so it was lovely, and they had everything, and they had Santa. And I remember we used to go to Santa, and back in the day, they used to give you lollipops, but then they stopped being able to do that because of the, your thing with your teeth. But and then they started giving you pins, but it was still great. And I kept that pin. I kept my Woodward Santa pin forever. And my God, they sold everything, and they did everything, and you could buy everything there. And it was such an unbelievably good outing. I mean, oh my God, the Woodward's department store windows, they still have those, actually. They still have those. If you're wondering, a bit of a vibe, it's kind of a Miracle on 34th Street vibe. They had the most beautiful window displays at Christmas. You would walk by, and it was like the windows, or like Elf. It was a little bit like that. And I think they saved those, and I think they have this thing at Canada Place every Christmas, and somebody saved them, so you can still go and see them. And we did later. My family, and I did later, and it was amazing to see them again. So they put on a show for Christmas, man. They sure did. And it was beautiful to go and shop and buy things and just be a part of the amazing event that was Woodward's. And they closed in 1993, which just was heartbreaking for everybody because we all loved it so much. So that's kind of what I want to say. I just want to talk about the end of an era and how beautiful it is, and how I think we need to look forward, though, to new things, to being about new things, and what's the next amazing thing going to be. So I think that's what I'm going to do, and hopefully we'll get brand new things that will be just as wonderful, or maybe even more, maybe even better. So I just want to say thanks, you guys, and have a good day.